Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. An Air India passenger plane bound for London Gatwick Airport has crashed shortly after taking off from Ahmedabad. Here footage showing the huge fireball as the plane went down. The flight was carrying 242 passengers and crew when it was involved in what the airline has called a tragic accident in the city in western India. Pictures from the scene soon after shows the charred wreckage. Ahmedabad's police chief says and that some local people would have died given where the plane went down. Among the passengers were 169 Indian nationals, 53 British nationals, 1 Canadian and 7 Portuguese. The aircraft involved was a Boeing 7878 Dreamliner, and the Air India crash is the first time it has come down in such a way.
It's got a really good safety record. Having seen the footage, and it's very tragic and it's quite distressing to see it, but there is viral footage of the crash itself. The weather conditions looked to be perfect, to be fine. The aircraft itself was, although it was descending rapidly, obviously, it was actually straight and level, which is kind of unusual because it was descending in a way that if it had been high altitude, it's hard to gauge from that whether the crew were still in control up until the last moment or not.
The global nuclear watchdog has found Iran has failed to meet its non-proliferation obligations for the first time in 20 years. A resolution passed by the Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency carries the threat of an eventual referral to the UN Security Council. It follows a report from the IAEA last week, which cited a general lack of cooperation from Iran and raised concerns over secret activities and undeclared nuclear material in areas which have long been under investigation. The bodies of 1,212 Ukrainian soldiers have been returned from Russia, according to Kyiv, as part of a prisoner exchange agreement between the countries. In return, Russia has received 27 bodies, Moscow's chief negotiator said. The prisoner exchange deal was the only tangible result of peace talks in Turkey last week, with both sides agreeing to hand over as many as 6,000 bodies each, as well as sick and heavily wounded prisoners of war. Footage shared online shows hundreds of Palestinians climbing over a large mound of dirt, with some scaling a metal fence as they rush to enter an aid site in Gaza run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. People are then seen entering the site and running towards what is assumed to be aid. The UN and other aid groups refuse to cooperate with the new system, saying it contravenes the humanitarian principles of neutrality, impartiality and independence. Harvey Weinstein has been found guilty of sexual assault in New York after his sex crimes conviction in the state was overturned last year. A panel of 7 female and 5 male jurors deliberated for 5 days in the 6-week trial before unanimously voting to convict the disgraced film mogul on 1 of 3 counts. The jury found him not guilty of an additional sexual assault charge and has yet to return a verdict on a charge of rape. The conviction is in addition to a 16-year sentence that Weinstein has yet to serve after being convicted of sex crimes in Los Angeles. And Brian Wilson, the legendary frontman and co-founder of the Beach Boys, has died at the age of 82. Born in 1942 and raised in California, Wilson formed a group with his younger brothers Carl and Dennis, cousin Mike Love, and friend Al Jardine. The Beach Boys went on to become one of the country's biggest rock bands, selling more than 100 million records globally. Bob Dylan said he had spent years admiring Wilson's genius, while Sir Elton John described him as a true giant who had the biggest influence on his songwriting. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.